She had never felt so alone. Elif, 68 years old, had started to feel like she was losing most of the things in her life. Her husband had passed away years ago from a heart attack. Her children, focused on their careers in different cities, rarely visited. She had lost many of her relatives too. Slowly, the rooms of her house grew silent. The only sounds were the television and the occasional ring of the phone. But one morning, as Elif sat in her favorite armchair, staring at the quiet house, something shifted. She had been mourning for so long, trapped in a cycle of grief and isolation. It had become her way of life, her comfort zone. But deep inside, there was a flicker of something else. A longing, a desire for change. A thought crossed her mind that she had never really considered before. What if I could live differently? What if I could start over? She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the empty street. The houses were quiet, too. The thought of breaking free from her comfort zone was terrifying. Could she really change her life at this stage? She wasn't sure. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that something had to change. Elif had spent so much time thinking about what she had lost. What if, instead, she focused on what she could still gain? The next morning, Elif woke up earlier than usual. As the sunlight filtered through the curtains, she felt a strange energy coursing through her. She made a decision. She would start small, take one step toward change, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it felt. She decided to take a walk. It seemed simple enough, just a few minutes outside in the fresh air, but to Elif, it felt like a monumental shift. It wasn't just about the walk. It was about making a choice to stop letting life pass her by. She laced up her sneakers, took a deep breath, and stepped outside. The air was crisp, and as she walked down her quiet street, she felt the weight of the world lifting off her shoulders, even if just for a moment. Her pace was slow at first, but with every step, she began to feel a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't waiting for something to happen. She was making it happen. She was moving. Elif didn't walk far that day, just around the block. But that small act felt like a victory. She returned home, out of breath, but smiling. It was just a walk. But for her, it was a symbol of reclaiming her life. That day, she made another choice. I will do this every day. Days turned into weeks, and Elif's morning walks became a regular part of her routine. The initial struggle of stepping outside into the unknown began to fade. With every step, she felt stronger. Her body, once stiff from years of inactivity, grew more agile. She found herself walking farther, faster, and with more confidence. But the most surprising part was what was happening inside her. The sense of purpose that had eluded her for so long was now taking root. Her walks weren't just physical exercise. They were a way for her to reconnect with herself, to remind herself that she still had the power to choose how she wanted to live. She wasn't just moving her body. She was reclaiming her mind and spirit too. One morning, as she passed by a local cafe, Elif saw a woman sitting outside, enjoying a cup of coffee. The woman smiled at Elif as she walked by. It was a small gesture, but for Elif, it felt like a sign that the world was still there, still welcoming, and still waiting for her to step back into it. By now, Elif had started to change more than just her daily routine. She had started to think about other ways to reclaim her life. New activities, new hobbies, new connections. Her walks had given her the courage to consider the possibilities, to think about what was left to discover in life. As Elif's confidence grew, so did her desire to reach out. One day, she decided to attend a local community event. It was something small, just a neighborhood gathering, but to Elif, it felt like a huge step. She had been avoiding these types of things for years, believing that they were for younger, more energetic people. But this time, she decided to push through the hesitation and show up. When she arrived at the event, she was greeted by familiar faces, people she had once known but had drifted apart from over the years. Elif smiled, introduced herself, and felt a warm sense of belonging that she hadn't felt in a long time. Her decision to take that first step outside her comfort zone had led her to something even more unexpected: connection. At the event, she met a woman named Sarah who, like Elif, was rediscovering herself after a long period of isolation. They talked for hours, shared stories, and discovered that they both loved gardening. Sarah invited Elif to join her gardening club, and Elif eagerly accepted. She realized that the small step she had taken, just to walk around the block, had opened up a whole new world for her. From that day forward, Elif's life was never the same. She continued her walks, but now they were paired with new friendships, new activities, and a renewed sense of purpose. She had finally made the choice to live, to stop waiting for something to change, and to take control of her own future. Elif's journey had only just begun, but she knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back now. She had made her choice, and each day she made that choice again. She continued to walk, to connect, and to live. The change wasn't just physical. It was a transformation of her entire outlook on life. As the months passed, Elif's energy and enthusiasm grew. She began volunteering at local events, helping others who were looking for a fresh start. She became an advocate for the power of small, everyday choices, sharing her story with others who had been in her position, feeling stuck, feeling lost, and wondering if it was too late to start over. Elif knew the truth now. It was never too late. Her journey had shown her that no matter where you are in life, no matter how old you are, you always have the power to make a change. The choice is always yours. And with that realization, Elif stepped forward into the next chapter of her life, ready to face whatever came next with the same courage and determination that had brought her here. As Elif continued her morning walks, she began to notice something even more transformative than just the physical changes. Her mind was clearing. For years, she had been trapped in a cycle of negative thoughts, the kind of thoughts that told her she was too old to change, too late to start something new. But now, with every step she took, she found herself letting go of the mental barriers that had kept her stuck for so long. She started waking up with a sense of excitement instead of dread. The days were no longer just an endless series of hours to get through, but opportunities to embrace life in new ways. She began challenging herself to do things she had avoided for years. Small things at first, like joining her local book club, and later, things that once seemed impossible, like enrolling in a watercolor painting class. It was as though with each step, she was building a new version of herself, one that was more open, more alive, and more willing to take risks. Elif had always been an avid reader, but she had let her books gather dust over the years. Now, as she sat down in her favorite chair each evening, she found herself devouring novels, historical fiction, and biographies. The words on the pages seemed to connect with her own life in a way they never had before. She saw herself in the stories of characters who were struggling to find their place, and she realized that, like them, she too had the power to rewrite her own narrative. One evening, after finishing a particularly inspiring novel, Elif sat with a cup of tea, reflecting on how far she had come. She remembered the days when even leaving her house felt like a monumental task. Now, walking had become a joy, not just a necessity. She smiled to herself, thinking, I am no longer just existing. I am living. It wasn't long before Elif started to notice that her changes weren't just affecting her. Her newfound energy and enthusiasm were infectious. Her neighbors, who had watched her transformation with curiosity, began to approach her, asking for advice and eventually joining her on her walks. One afternoon, as Elif walked along the park with her neighbor Berna, a woman in her early 60s who had recently retired, they struck up a conversation that would lead to an unexpected friendship. I've been watching you for a while now, Elif, Berna said, adjusting her scarf as they walked. You look like you've got a new spark in you. What's your secret? Elif chuckled softly. There's no secret. It's just about making a decision to take that first step, even when you're not sure how you'll feel afterward. That's all it took for me. A walk every morning just to clear my head, and the rest sort of followed. Berna was quiet for a moment, then spoke again. I've been meaning to start exercising, but I've always put it off. I tell myself I'm too old or too tired to begin now. You're never too old, Elif replied, her voice soft but firm. It's about starting small, doing what feels manageable. That's what changed for me, and I know it can change for you too. The following week, Berna joined Elif for her morning walk. The first few days, Berna struggled to keep up. She wasn't used to walking that much, and her legs ached with the effort. But Elif was patient. She never rushed Berna. They took their time, chatting about their lives, sharing memories, and talking about their hopes. Slowly, Berna's pace picked up, and with it, her confidence. Before long, she was walking regularly, and she began to encourage other neighbors to join them. Their group grew steadily, a small community of people who walked together each day, exchanging stories, offering advice, and celebrating small victories along the way. It wasn't just about fitness anymore, it was about belonging, about finding strength in numbers. And, to Elif's surprise, her morning walks had become something of a social event. Despite the momentum Elif had built, the path wasn't always smooth. One particularly cold winter morning, as the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, Elif woke up to an unexpected challenge. Her right knee, which had been bothering her for weeks, suddenly felt worse. She could barely stand without wincing in pain. For a moment, Elif felt discouraged. What if this is the end of my walks? She thought. The possibility of giving up crossed her mind briefly, but she quickly dismissed it. She had come too far to stop now. She decided to see her doctor, and after a few tests, Elif was told that her knee had developed some arthritis, something common with age. The doctor advised that she rest for a while and consider physical therapy. Elif was frustrated, but she knew she couldn't let this setback define her. She began physical therapy with determination, even when it was painful, and she adapted her routine to accommodate her knee. Instead of walking briskly, she focused on gentle stretches and strengthening exercises at home. She continued to walk at a slower pace, sometimes with the help of a cane, but she never stopped moving forward. This challenge taught Elif an important lesson. It wasn't just about pushing through the pain. It was about listening to her body, being patient with herself, and knowing that progress could come in many different forms. It wasn't always about running faster or walking farther. It was about finding a sustainable pace that worked for her, no matter what challenges she faced. Months passed, and Elif's knee gradually improved. The pain became manageable, and her walks became more confident once again. But something had changed within her. She wasn't just walking to improve her health anymore. She was walking because it had become a symbol of her resilience. Every step she took was a reminder of the choices she had made and the life she had reclaimed. One day, as she walked along the path, the sun shining through the trees, she realized that she had become someone she barely recognized. The Elif, who had once felt helpless, isolated, and resigned to her circumstances, was gone. In her place stood a woman who was fully alive, fully present, and who had taken charge of her own destiny. Her story had not only transformed her own life, it had sparked a transformation in her community. Through the walks, the shared moments, and the bonds they had formed, Elif had built something greater than herself. She had inspired others to take charge of their lives, to make a choice to live fully, no matter their age or circumstances. As Elif reached the end of her usual path, she paused for a moment and looked around at the neighborhood. She saw the people she had met along the way, the friends she had made, and the smiles of those who had joined her journey. And with a deep breath, she realized that the greatest transformation wasn't in the miles she had walked. It was in the life she had built. She had made her choice. And now, there was no turning back. As we come to the end of Elif's transformative journey, we are reminded that the power to change our lives is always within our hands, no matter our age. Elif's story is a testament to the fact that it's never too late to take that first step, to reclaim our health, and to build a life filled with purpose and connection. What started as a simple decision to walk every day grew into a profound transformation, not only for her, but for those around her as well. Through her persistence and courage, Elif taught us that challenges are not roadblocks, but opportunities for growth. The journey wasn't always easy, but each step she took led her to a place of strength, resilience, and fulfillment. Her story shows us that we are not defined by our circumstances, but by the choices we make. Elif's story doesn't end here. It's a reminder that we all have the power to rewrite our own stories, no matter the challenges we face. The first step is always the hardest, but once we take it, there is no turning back. Thank you for joining us on Elif's inspiring journey. If her story moved you, we encourage you to take that first step toward your own transformation. Remember, it's never too late to start, and the life you dream of is just one decision away. Keep moving forward, stay motivated, and believe in your ability to create the life you deserve. The journey is yours to begin, one step at a time. The best is yet to come.